This is Penn Woods interviewing for the Oklahoma Living Legends. The date is April the 24th, 1971, and we're in Oklahoma City on the date of the annual Western Heritage Awards dinner. I have with me one of the all-time greats in the rodeo field, and that is Casey Tibbs. I think that name needs no more introduction for this purpose. Casey will be talking with us and visiting a little about his experience as far as Oklahoma is concerned and as far as Oklahoma Cowboys are concerned. To begin with, I would like to get a little of your personal background, where you were born, and just briefly how you got into rodeoing and up into your national championship that you won.
Well, I was born in South Dakota and left home at a pretty young age of around 13, and first come out through Kansas and Oklahoma. I came south rodeoing. I guess I went into Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska around also, but I ended up in Kansas with the Roberts brothers for a while, and then I rodeoed throughout Oklahoma. So I spent a lot of my early days in rodeo in Oklahoma, mainly at the smaller rodeos, and then as I got a little better, I hooked Oklahoma City and Tulsa and the better ones. So Oklahoma, in a sense, has been kind of a second home to me from my early day of rodeo.
Thinking in terms of Oklahoma towns that are particularly good rodeo towns, during your rodeoing period particularly, what towns can you think of that have particular fine rodeos?
Well, of course, right off you always thought of Oklahoma City and Tulsa, but Bonita had a very fine rodeo, as I remember back, and gee, I can go on to all of them. Some of the little ones was real top rodeos, such as Guthrie and Chickasha and Enid, and you just go on naming them down the line. I remember Bonita used to be one of the big rodeos we used to try to make just before going to Cheyenne.
What year did you win the World Championship?
I won it first in 49, and last time I won it was 59. That's the bronc riding.
49 and 59.
Didn't you? All-around 2 years.
The all-around. That's what I'm thinking. The all-around were which years?
51 and 52. 51 and 55.
In your Oklahoma rodeos, do you recall any particular Oklahoma rodeo where you had an unusual or outstanding experience, interesting experience?
Well, I really can't. I can't pinpoint any one particular time down or ride down, that I'd have to say was.
What about, let's think in terms of some of the Oklahoma rodeo cowboys that you have worked with. Let's think maybe first of the Burks. Did you work with the earlier Burks?
I never knew Clyde, or Sage as they called him. He was killed in Denver, I think, the year before I went there. Of course, I knew Dee and Jiggs, and then the younger Burke now that's doing real good. He was just a little kid around the rodeos, and like in Madison Square Garden, he was just, he was roping the arms of a chair or something. He's about 5 or 6 years old now. He's one of the leading cowboys, and that's Dee's boy, and Barry Burke, yes. And then, of course, when you speak of Oklahoma Cowboys, you'd have to put Jim Shoulders on top, not only in Oklahoma but anywhere else. His title speaks for itself. I was just visiting a minute ago out here in the lobby with Freckles Brown, who, he ceases to amaze me. I can't believe this man, the way he keeps going on and still keeps his cool about him and wins prizes. And he's got to be, towards that Archie Moore age.
Can you think anything, thinking in terms of the people not only as athletes but also as personalities? Could you make any comments on Jim Shoulders?
Well, Jim has been, he's established himself as a pretty much a jam-up businessman. He's got several businesses going. He's enterprises, and well, like throughout throughout the country, not just in the rodeo world, but wherever he meets people. And Freckles Brown, too. I would say that Freckles Brown, if he could have been governor of Oklahoma if he'd have set his mind to it, as well a liked fellow as he is.
Can you think of any other Oklahomans that have particular memorable to you?
Well, of course, a lot of young fellows today. Roy Duval, and the Cones boys. There's so many good cowboys come out of Oklahoma. Todd Wadley was a former all-around champion. Buck Rutherford was one of the top cowboys of the country for several years, and still a competitor. There's just too many. Oklahoma raised too many cowboys to start naming them off almost.
Have you had any movie experiences in Oklahoma? Have you shot anything?
No, I've never filmed a movie in Oklahoma. I'd planned to a year or so ago, and we did it in South Dakota instead.
Do you have any plans for doing anything in Oklahoma?
Well, I sure do. I'd sure like to do a picture up in the Osage country. I mean, that's the most photographic country there is.
Do you have in mind the sort of thing you'd want to do there?
I have a script that I have designed for that particular area, and but right now, as tight as it is on financing, I don't know if I'll ever get it off the ground or not.
What was the most exciting part of your rodeo career? Can you think of any of the most exciting experience you have had in rodeo anywhere?
Oh, gee, I don't know. It's hard to say. When you go to your first big rodeos, I guess as a kid, why, that's exciting, whether you win, lose, or draw. And, I remember in 1946, I'd saved up and like going out of the world to go back to Madison Square Garden. And, of course, that was exciting. Then a few years later, when I won it and won the championship of the world at, I guess, one of the earliest ages, why, that was exciting. So it's tough to say.
What about in the movie? You've been working in the movie field. What are you doing now in the movies?
I just finished working with John Wayne over in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and there I was doing mostly stunt work. Did a part of a ND Cowboy, nondescript cowboy, but what I'm pushing for and doing most of is second unit directing and directing. I've directed a couple movies on my own, and I like to put together the action sequences, make it become a reality on the screen.
You've attended about as many Western Heritage Awards programs as almost anybody, and have been a winner on a number of these occasions. I wonder if you'd like to comment on the Western Heritage Awards program at the Cowboy Hall of Fame.
Well, I think it's a great thing. I'm proud that I did win an award here. One of my movies did a couple years ago. And I think it's just great that they take this opportunity to preserve a piece of the West and give a lot of people and films recognition that may not get it through the Academy Awards in Los Angeles. For instance, True Grit was the #1 picture, so to speak, a year ago. Wayne won the award. But I think that True Grit got more recognition through the Western Heritage Award than it did out of the Academy Awards.
You've also been quite a visitor to the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and you've seen the many changes. It's different every time you come, new things. I wonder if you'd like to comment on that and what purpose you feel it fills in the Western heritage of the nation.
Well, of course, that is the big thing that they have done, and it's almost unbelievable to figure they started from a spot on top of a hill and make it become such a reality. And of course, this here is where the West is really preserved, and I don't believe there's a finer shrine anywhere in the world that I've seen, and I've covered most of the world, that there's such a shrine as this. It's really great, and it's did something that if it hadn't been started about the time it was, it would have all been forgotten. The famous sculptors and the Russells and everybody would have been, we'd have seen a painting now and then, but now it's something that will be forever.
Thank you very much. This has been an interview with one of the all-time rodeo greats, also a movie great, Casey Tibbs.